Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're working on the table of my CNC. I've posted a few pictures to my Instagram feed of what I've been doing. My old MDF tabletop. I'd surfaced it as many times as I could. So needless to say, I had to take that off, and not thinking, I actually glued that down, and that proved to be quite difficult to get off. I got it as level as I can get it, as flat and smooth as I can get it, and now I'm ready to put the new top on. I'm going with really the dimensions that my machine can cut. If you remember any of my older videos, my MDF top actually was the full 3 feet, but in reality this machine can't cut 3 feet because we have the gantry and the router itself mounted in front of that, and so the max distance I can really get is just about 2 feet. I'm planning on putting these in, and I made them 6 inches. The last ones were, I don't know, 12 plus inches apart. So this time around I went with the blue tracks from Rockler, and these were actually 4-foot tracks, and I cut them as close to center as I could, so I have, you know, equal pieces. I changed from these, I believe these are from Incra. The other thing I want to point out is if you look at these two profiles next to one another, you can see the difference in the height there, right? I want to be able to surface this top several times before needing to replace the different pieces. And so with these lower profile channels from Rockler, I'll be able to do that much easier, right? I'll get a few more uses out of the boards. These are actually made so they will fit the standard T-track hardware, but they also fit 1/4 bolts. So these will work for both. So the plan I have here is basically to put one of these 6-inch by 2-foot pieces of MDF right in the center of my machine, and then essentially once I have that centered or put down, then I'm going to put a track followed by another piece, and we're going to go right on down the line here basically. So we're going to end up with a setup that looks like this, where you can see back here there is no tabletop, it's just the plywood top, and I'm just going to leave it that way. This is what my unit can actually cut. 2 foot in depth by about 59 inches across. That's what this is going to look like. So my next step is going to be to figure out exactly where this first piece needs to go, and my thought was I'll cut another one of these that's exactly, you know, the same dimension, okay, and what I'll do is I'm going to put a hole in the center and at either end, and I'll use that piece as a drilling template, and I'll keep that, and then basically whenever I need to replace one of these, I can just take this template, put it on top, mark and drill the holes. Likewise, I'll take this same template, and once I have this all kind of lined up where it needs to be, I secure the T-tracks, then I will basically take this template, put it in here, line it up, and I will drill holes through the tabletop as well. And then what I'll end up doing is I'll insert threaded inserts, and then I'll just use those threaded inserts to hold these down, because there could be a little bit of spring to them, but basically I'll use those inserts to hold these down. So that's next. Stick around. Here we go. Alright guys, so off camera I just threw together this little template. It's just one of the 6-inch pieces that I cut. I threw a piece of plywood on the end, glued and nailed, and alright, and that allows me to bring this board in here and just slide it right in between the two until it bottoms out on that. So once that bottoms out, now I'll be able to take this template, I'll be able to pre-drill the holes for all of the threaded inserts actually. And again, we just slide it in there, and we use that to pre-drill. Alright, and just like I did on the table by sliding this in, I can take these boards, slide them right down on top of that piece, maybe throw a clamp on it. Okay, so the same way I'm going to use this piece here as a stop to put it up against there, and now I should be able to drill these out. Now the only thing that I have yet to do is I'll just take this over to my drill press with a Forstner bit, and I'll just cut a recess a good halfway through this board, and that'll allow me to put the screw head in. Okay guys, we're back, and I've got all the holes drilled in the surface here. So I have a threaded insert, and those threaded inserts, I bought a T-handle when I first got these inserts. The threaded inserts that I have are also set up for a standard Allen key, hex key, whatever you want to call that. And so I've been really just using that. Even though I bought this with it, I don't find that I'm using it that often. So if you look to get threaded inserts and you don't have one of these, don't waste your money. So all I'm doing is I'm taking the threaded insert with the Allen key and sitting it in the hole, trying to get it as straight as I can to start, and then just screwing it in. And once it's below the surface, that's all it needs to be. They make both coarse threaded and fine threaded inserts, and the coarse threaded are meant for softer woods. And so since this is a plywood top, I'm using the softer inserts, you know, so that they grip better. Alright, so I've got all the threaded inserts in the table except for this last bay here, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to explain something to everyone. So I made this template, and it worked perfectly for sliding in between the rails here. When we get out to the ends here, we've got the aluminum angle mounted on the end for the gantry to roll on. And so my template wouldn't fit over here anymore for two reasons. One, the brackets that I have on the CNC table that hold the lead screws here at the ends, they were interfering with the stop. So what I had to do is I had to shorten the stop here. But on top of that, I had to allow for the aluminum angle. And so I started out by putting a line here on the board at the distance where the T-track stuck out, just so that I wanted to make sure I had enough meat there not to interfere with the accuracy of the jig. And so I didn't just ran a rabbiting bit along the edge here. And when it came time to get down here, because I already had this all glued up, I just used a chisel and did that. But if you were to make something similar to this, I would just run a rabbet along here all the way before you put the stop on. With those two changes in place, I can now take my guide, slide it tight up against the T-track here, all the way to the stop. The stop now is just above where these brackets are. And yes, you know, there's some play in here because of the rabbet. But if I pull it up here and I push it tight against that side as a reference, I can then hold it tight in these two directions, line up my drill, and drill these out. Okay, and with that, I can now put the last three of my Easy Lock threaded inserts in. Okay, now the next step is just going to be to slide all of these 6-inch inserts back in here. Some of them are definitely going to be a snug fit. They'll look like they line up. Put our washers down in the holes. That's just going to help, you know, with more bearing surface, so we don't pull the screw through the MDF. Well, alright guys, I think that wraps it up, really. I got my new table down. I've got all the T-tracks. I like the blue color, by the way. It goes with the rest of my theme here. So I got my new T-tracks. I have my new 6-inch wide boards here that are screwed down instead of glued this time. That'll make it easy to replace either one at a time or 2 or 3 if they get damaged. Obviously it's going to give me a lot more clamping ability. The only thing I have left to do here is put my surfacing bit in and do a new tool path just for this, 2-foot area. Well, alright, and thanks for hanging with Harv.